It's a beautiful bacon day, Cookie Crusaders. Today we're going to be talking about milk cookie and the magic candy that goes along with milk. Now, milk has been a very differently talked about cookie over time. Sometimes good, sometimes debatable. Depends on really where the meta's been, how it's been going. Now, the magic candy itself gives healing of 37.6% of the damage blocked, so about 1/3 you're regaining of health. Bonus skill damage of 86.3%, and a debuff resistance of 10.7% for 10 seconds. So the nice thing is it's a little bit of a parfait effect, a little bit of healing, so that's really nice, something that Milk really needed. The bonus damage actually makes it so that if the attacks are going correctly, and the team setup is going correctly, Milk will actually do some pretty decent damage. Not nearly as much as a DPS unit, but definitely can contend pretty well. And I love what happens with the way Milk is set up now. So in addition, once you get to level 10, you get the deals more damage with regular attacks and true damage relative to max HP of 1%. Damage to others, 20%. So that means that in PvE mode, story mode, things like that, Milk's going to actually be really helpful with true damage. So if there's ever a situation where you're like, I need sorbet because of true damage, now you can actually run them in comparison to each other because they can both just eat through the defenses of bosses and other non-cookie characters and do really well. So Milk's going to be great for that reason. And then, of course, if you get to max level 30, you get 1.5% true damage to regular cookies and 30% to non-cookies. So I think that's pretty awesome, to be honest. Now, the team setup we're doing here, I'll show you toppings in a minute. The team setup is Milk, Financer, Clotted, Cream Unicorn, and Vampire. Now, the reason we have it set up like this is because we want the shield buff and the attack buff going to Clotted at a higher percent than would normally go to any normal cookie that has a high attack. And on a default fallback, if Clotted does fall, it will go to Vampire after. You see that we're running robes here. Now, that might be a little confusing. We're actually using robes on Clotted and Cream Unicorn with the toppings set up. So if we go into the toppings, we have cooldown on 3 of our cookies. We have attacks on Vampire and attack on Clotted. But we have the attack speed specifically focused highest on these two. The reason is the attack speed will actually give the auto attack healing to Cream Unicorn, and it will speed up the animations so that you're getting more resistance, more critical resistance on your team thanks to Cream Unicorn going faster. And it will also speed up the animation for Clotted so that you can get those moving out. Now, the dangerous thing is that normally when you use attack speed on certain cookies, a lot of the early gen cookies, they did not do well with attack speed because then you were getting into this point where you were leaving them unprotected because their animations, their skills were their protection. Where some of the new cookies like Clotted, it's okay. Every time that activation goes off, you get some more damage resistance. So the newer cookies are built in a sense where attack speed can actually work pretty well with them. Not all of them, but some of the new ones. Those two specifically. So we're going to take it into the arena. I'm not going to guarantee 100% win rate with this team, as there are still teams that are, of course, going to be counters to it. And I believe this team that we're fighting here is specifically the one counter. But it is a good team. Reason being is Financer pumps up Clotted, makes him super strong. Cream Unicorn gives those critical resistance. Vampire taking out the backline. Milk just taunting all that damage in as fast as possible with those cooldowns. And it keeps cycling back and forth, and it does a really good job. This team we may end up beating depending on their topping setup and their treasure setup, so we do have a small chance. As you can see, we did lose Clotted, but now that means that Vampire is going to be hitting even stronger, so hopefully we can take out that back healer and do everything that we need to do to take out this team, which it looks like in this instance we did. Normally that team would take the win, so their toppings or their treasures were probably not optimized in the sense that we're able to beat us, even though they did a great amount of damage. But look at here. 7.3 million healing from Cream Unicorn. And that is all thanks to that attack speed. We have high cooldown. We have that attack speed. We don't have as much as we want. If I could get an adjustment to the toppings on Cream Unicorn higher, let me show you again real quick. If I could get this higher, I would go, obviously, the 5% more on damage resistance, the 10% more, sorry, not 10%, 6% more on cooldown to get that 25%, but then I am missing 14% almost on attack speed. If I could get it up to that level, the amount of min-max potential there would be tremendous. I mean, we just got 7.3 million with that setup right there. If we had had a higher attack speed, it would have just been insane. Like, we would have just been healing out the wazoo. So it would have been awesome. But yet again, it works. It works through it. Your greatest enemy for this team is really just going to be the burst teams, which are pretty much the meta right now. So we live in a very tough meta currently because there's a lot of burst damage. But that's why Clotted is so important in the setup, is to take those front tanks out of the way so that you can get to those middle burst units, whether it be Caramel Arrow, Sorbet, a few others. Those are the real reasons why this is the setup. Vampire is there to just specifically take out Cream Unicorn, Cotton, Parfait, all those healers in the back causing you issues from actually taking down the team. That's why Vampire's there. And then, of course, Cream Unicorn just makes it so that everyone's just staying alive just a little bit longer. But yeah, you can see here, 3.7 million from Clotted, just absolutely tearing through the enemy team just because of those attack boosts and buffs. And then if we look at the damage received, it's a pretty good tie between both Milk and Financer. Now, the difference is Financer's 5-star ascended, where Milk is only 2-star ascended. If we had a 5-star ascended Milk, maybe the damage resistance and damage received would be a little bit more in the favor of Milk here, but nonetheless. And then the healing, you can see Milk's doing a pretty good job healing too. So even though Cream Unicorn's taking the lead of the entire team as far as healing goes, matching up to 2 healers on their team versus our single one, it's doing a well and wonderful job. So let's take it a couple more fights. Look at that, Master 3 on the recording. I love it. This will probably be a tough match. This is a good team. So you can see Espresso, Vampire, and Cream Unicorn here. So you got 2 Magic Candy users and a seriously powerful healer. And I would highly recommend, in the current meta, if you don't have at least 2 Magic Candy users, your team's probably going to be having some struggles. I'm trying to build teams that either don't use Candy Magic users at all, or try to focus on ways to get around that. As you can see, every time you run Magic Candy users, it's just going to create a stronger team. Now, in their instance, it was a strong team, but they didn't have a ranking, so they weren't in the Masters League. Their Espresso, good. Their Vampire, good, but obviously it wasn't as strong. And their Financer, not dealing as much damage. Let's check the healing. Also not as much healing. That could be just from the Star Ascension rankings. That could be. Or it could also be from toppings. If they're not running cooldowns on Financer, probably not being as optimized. Maybe not as powerful as cooldowns on their Cream Unicorn. Their ability to get out damage resistance on their cookies, like our Milk took the show by far from our team, but their Financer did all the resistance on their team. It should have been Wildberry. So that means that everything was poised in a way that Financer was their brute, and our team was just pushing through regardless of the Wildberry setup there. And their Wildberry also didn't do much damage either. So hopefully this video is helpful to you. Hopefully you can use this team to punch through the arena in this crazy meta that we're in right now. If you're building Milk at all, this is the team I suggest. Yet again, those robes are really making the difference. If you're not using those robes at a high level for high attack speed, you're going to be struggling because the animations take a bit of time for Clotted, and you're going to have less auto attack healing from Cream Unicorn, and you're going to have less speed of applying both the damage resistance and the critical resistance onto your team, which means they're just more exposed. And we live in a very high damage resistance meta right now, where you just need survivability, or else you're going to have some problems. And so we're starting to get units that can take care of that, and that can put it in a sense that You don't have to specifically build damage resistance onto your units, like putting, just all almonds on everybody. We don't have almonds on anybody. Not a single person. Yes, we do have damage resistance focus in the substats, but that's because Cream Unicorn going through as fast as it is, Financer applying those buffs to Clotted Cream, that is all putting us to the max caps to where we don't have to worry about getting damage resistance on our team. Now, the only instance where it'd probably be different is if we were fighting some very high optimized burst team, like a scam team or a really powerful speeded caramel team with a rye cookie magic candy 30. Those teams would be really tough, and then we'd need damage resistance just to survive, but the ability to take them out even if we were surviving would still probably be low. So I think we're moving into an area where cooldowns are mattering a lot more on a lot of abilities rather than just building solid almonds on every single thing. I know solid almonds are really great, but we have units that make hitting the cap of damage resistance much more likely these days. So these are my recommendations for the team build and how you can use it to actually push through the arena and take more wins. Let me know in the comments and the feedback if you have different opinions, if you have a different team that you're using for Milk to have fun and win in the arena. Just let me know what you think. I'd love to hear it all. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.